Listen up, family. Denzel Washington here, and I'm coming to you with a truth that's going to shake your soul awake. You're out there, grinding through life's chaos. Maybe you're wrestling with doubt, fighting battles nobody sees, or carrying dreams that feel too heavy to lift. What's your name? Where are you at right now? Are you sitting in a quiet room, or is the world screaming around you? Wherever you are, God's got a word for you today. You were born for more than just surviving. You were created for peace that anchors you, power that moves mountains, and purpose that sets your spirit on fire. But to step into that divine calling, you've got to learn a sacred skill, one most folks won't dare whisper out loud. You ready? It's time to act like you don't care. Not because you're cold, not because you've lost your heart, but because God's calling you to guard protect your peace, and rise above the noise. Let's walk this road together with God's strength leading the way, and discover how to live untouchable in a world that's trying to break you. This ain't about shutting down your soul or turning your back on love. It's about standing firm in God's plan for you, refusing to let every opinion, every judgment, every misunderstanding drain the life He's poured into you. You can't let the world's chatter steal your focus. You can't let every critic's voice weigh down your spirit. You can't let every wound from someone's misjudgment cut you deep. And you sure can't let your heart break every time the crowd doesn't cheer you on. God's whispering to you right now, stay calm when they question your worth. Stay focused when they throw shade. Stay grounded when they turn their backs. And keep moving forward even when they try to leave you in the dust. That's what it means to act like you don't care. It's about shielding the divine energy God gave you. It's about letting folks talk while you keep walking the path He's laid out. It's about keeping your soul's cards close, letting your silence shout louder than their gossip. You see, the world's going to test you. It's going to poke at your heart, trying to see if you'll dim the light God placed in you. What's holding you back right now? Is it fear? Is it someone's opinion? But when you learn to act like you don't care, you stop dancing for the world's applause. Too many folks out there are living like actors in a play, posting for likes, speaking for validation, changing who they are just to keep people who don't even honor them. You know what that does? It drains the life right out of you. It empties the soul God filled with His love. It weakens the conviction He planted in you. So hear me clear, family, you've got to stop pouring your energy into things that don't deserve your care. Let them talk. Let them judge. Let them misunderstand. That ain't your burden to carry. You're not here to win their approval. You're not here to explain your every move. You're not here to be everybody's favorite. You're here to be real, to be whole, to walk in the purpose God crafted for you. And purpose, it doesn't beg for permission. It doesn't wait for a standing ovation. It doesn't change to fit the room. It strides in bold, speaks with clarity, moves in silence, and lets God's results do the talking. When I tell you to act like you don't care, I ain't saying become heartless. I'm saying become untouchable, grounded in God's peace, locked in with His vision, guarded by His Spirit. When the world can't shake your emotions, it can't derail the mission God gave you. They'll try to get a reaction. They'll bait you into arguments. They'll push you to justify your boundaries. Don't take the bait. God's calling you to be like water, calm, steady, unstoppable. Stop handing out access to your heart to folks who haven't earned it. When they throw a rock your way, ripple, then reset. Don't splash. Don't spill. Hold your form because God made you to stand firm. That's what the great ones do. They act like they don't care, not out of arrogance, but because they're aligned with God's plan. They know what matters. They know what they're here to build. They know which voices get a say in their mind and which ones get shown the door. So stop giving emotional access to people who haven't paid the price for it. Stop explaining yourself to folks who've already judged you. Stop defending your growth to those who loved you better when you were stuck. You owe yourself more than that. You owe your future the peace God promises. You owe your mind the protection of His strength. You owe your path the clarity of His guidance. What's your story, family? Are you carrying stress from trying to please everybody? You ever notice how the folks doing the least always got the most to say? They ain't building. They ain't grinding. They ain't up early or burning the midnight oil to create something holy. But they've got energy for gossip. They've got time to throw shade. They've got opinions like they're funding your dreams. If you care too much, you'll start listening to people who don't even walk with discipline. You'll start tweaking your focus to please the unfocused. You'll start lowering your standards to fit someone else's comfort zone. That ain't growth, that's compromise. And God's calling you higher. It's time to stop. You've got a mission, a gift, a divine spark inside you that the world doesn't get to define. If they don't get it, praise God, it's not for them to understand. Let them misunderstand you. Let them misquote you. Let them assume what they want. While they're busy talking, you keep moving. You keep building. You keep becoming the person God created you to be. When you stop caring about their opinions, you start hearing God's voice louder. You hear His calling clearer. You start living from the inside out, not reacting to the noise outside. And trust me, they'll notice. The second you stop chasing their approval, they'll start chasing your attention. The moment you stop reacting to their drama, they'll double down to pull you in. Why? Because your peace, rooted in God's love, threatens their chaos. Your detachment exposes their desperation. Your discipline, guided by His hand, makes their excuses squirm. Acting like you don't care ain't weakness, it's wisdom straight from God. It's choosing your battles with divine discernment. It's growing past petty conflicts. It's realizing not everything deserves your fire. Back when you were younger, you fought every fight. You explained every choice. You cared what everybody thought. But now you choose God's peace over pride. You choose focus over feelings. You protect your mind like your future depends on it, because it does. Let them say you've changed. Let them say you've gone quiet. Let them say you don't care anymore. They're right, you don't. You don't care to prove yourself. You don't care to perform. You don't care to pretend. What you care about is aligning with God's purpose. What you care about is walking in His clarity. What you care about is moving forward with less noise and more of His divine purpose. That's what growth looks like. It ain't always loud. Sometimes it's silent. Sometimes it's walking away. Sometimes it's deleting a number. Sometimes it's ignoring a message. Sometimes it's letting silence be your boundary, trusting God to guard your heart. And here's the beauty: when you stop caring about what doesn't matter, you make room to care about what does. You start caring about your health, your energy, your mindset, your discipline, your God-given dreams. You start feeding the parts of you that were starving while you were too busy pleasing others. You start showing up for yourself the way you showed up for everybody else. You start listening to your own needs, guided by God's wisdom, instead of reacting to someone else's drama. In that sacred space, you get stronger, you get sharper, you get quieter but louder where it counts. You're no longer driven by fleeting emotions, you're driven by the mission God placed in you. When you stop over-caring, you start choosing yourself, not in a selfish way, but with sacred self-respect, the kind that says, I'm done with chaos. I'm not available for disrespect. I'm not investing in conversations that drain my soul and lead nowhere. You stop playing small just to be accepted. You stop laughing at jokes that ain't funny. You stop over-explaining decisions that were never up for debate. You learn to be unmoved, not emotionless, just unshaken. Not heartless, just clear in God's truth. That kind of energy makes folks uncomfortable, especially those who got used to you being too available, too tolerant, too eager to be liked. But they don't get it. You didn't turn cold. You turned clear. You got clear on what matters, clear on what deserves your reaction, clear on what you're no longer giving time to. God's truth is your shield. Peace comes at a cost. You've got to let go of noise. Let go of drama. Let go of people who demand you explain your boundaries, justify your growth, or apologize for your God-given success. When you act like you don't care, you stop begging for permission to protect your peace. You stop showing up to every fight just because you got an invite. You stop putting out fires others set. You stop draining your spirit for folks who wouldn't lift a finger if the tables turned. What matters more than how they feel about you is how you feel about yourself. Can you look in the mirror and say, I stayed true to God's call? Can you stand on your word, even if it makes you unpopular? Can you walk away when the room no longer aligns with the values God gave you? That's maturity. That's self-respect. That's strength from above. What's weighing on you today? Is it a relationship? A job? A fear of failing? The people who misunderstand your growth will call it arrogance. They'll call your detachment cold. They'll call your confidence ego. But the truth, they're not mad at your change. They're mad because they can't control you anymore. You stop bending. You stop chasing. You stop giving out emotional discounts to folks who never valued your presence. That's what happens when you act like you don't care. You become free. Free from approval addiction. Free from emotional manipulation. Free from the need to explain yourself to be enough. You are enough. You always were. You just stopped living for their permission and started living for God's peace. You know what's dangerous? A person who knows their worth and doesn't argue about it. You walk into a room and don't beg for recognition. You sit at the table and don't need to prove your value. You let your presence, blessed by God, speak louder than your need to be liked. That's power. That's what happens when you stop caring about being understood and start caring about being aligned with God's will. When you overcare, you overthink, you overextend, you over-apologize, you overcompensate for other people's discomfort. And that's how you stay stuck. Let me remind you, you ain't here to shrink so someone else feels tall. You ain't here to dim your light because it makes someone squint. You ain't here to add your God-given essence to be accepted. You're here to stand in His truth unapologetically. When you act like you don't care, you get laser focused. You don't waste energy on distractions. You don't let every whisper break your rhythm. You don't let small minds set the tone for your big vision. You rise above, guided by God's hand. You zoom out. You stop getting tangled in pettiness and opinions because you've got work to do. You've got a purpose to fulfill. You've got standards now, and not everybody makes the cut. How much time have you lost caring about the wrong things, worrying why they didn't text back? Stressing over who unfollowed you? Obsessing over what they said behind your back? Wondering if you're too much or not enough for someone else's comfort zone? What did all that caring get you? Stress. Exhaustion. Resentment. Regret. But when you flipped that switch, when you started acting like you didn't care, you got quiet. You got intentional. You got lighter. You got free in God's grace. This ain't about building walls or going numb. It's about discernment, about emotional maturity, about not letting your peace be held hostage by folks who wouldn't protect it. That's not selfish, it's self-aware, rooted in God's wisdom. So stop handing out backstage passes to people who don't belong in your inner circle. Stop caring about what doesn't align with His plan. Stop apologizing for growing beyond spaces that no longer fit. When you act like you don't care, you stop chasing what you were never meant to hold. You stop explaining what was never meant to be understood. You stop forcing what was never meant to stay. You start walking different. You start commanding rooms with your silence. You start showing up as the highest version of yourself, not for them, for you, for the God who made you. Because the only approval that matters now is the promise you made to yourself and to God to never give up again. So now you're in a new season, family. What's your purpose looking like today? This season demands something different, not more noise, not more performance, not more pretending. It demands God's peace, precision, and presence. To step into that, you've got to let go of caring about everything. Stop valuing opinions that don't build you. Stop reacting emotionally to folks who are spiritually disconnected. Stop breaking your own boundaries to make others feel safe. God's given you a higher calling, a sharper mindset, a tighter circle. The old you cared too much about being liked. The new you cares too much about being free in God's love. The old you overthought everything. The new you trusts your gut and moves in silence, guided by His voice. The old you showed up for everybody. The new you shows up for yourself first, fully, unapologetically, wrapped in God's grace. People will talk. Let them. They're allowed to be confused by your growth. They're allowed to dislike how you protect your peace. But you're done explaining your glow to those who choose to stay in the dark. You didn't get cold, you got clear. You didn't stop loving, you started loving yourself more the way God loves you. You didn't build walls, you built wisdom. So from this day forward, act like you don't care, not because you don't feel, but because you refuse to leak energy into anything beneath God's purpose for you. Let them wonder. Let them talk. Let them walk. You're no longer tied to anything that cost you your peace. You're not obsessed with being understood. You're not dancing for validation. You're here to build, to move, to align with God's plan. And anything that tries to pull you off that path doesn't deserve a second of your energy. That's what maturity looks like. That's what strength feels like. That's what freedom in God sounds like. It's the power to smile and stay silent. It's the wisdom to walk away without explaining. It's the confidence to rise without the crowd. It's the peace of knowing you don't need to care to be powerful, you just need to be clear in God's truth. So stop giving your light to people who never respected your shine. Stop inviting critics to your table. Stop waiting for permission to be who God made you. You owe yourself His peace. You owe yourself His alignment. You owe yourself His truth. And that starts when you stop being available for anything that doesn't serve His purpose. The next time someone tries to shake your center, whether it's judgment, gossip, or doubt, act like you don't care. Not because you're bitter, but because you've built something too beautiful, too divine, to destroy with a reaction. You've got vision. You've got purpose. You've got work to do in God's name. If they can't handle your growth, let them shrink alone. But you keep walking. You keep rising. You keep shining. Now, family, I'm calling you to action. If this hit your soul, drop a 100 in the comments. Let me know you're part of the 1% chasing God's purpose with everything you've got. Share your story. What's God pulling you out of? What's He calling you to? Leave a comment, tag a friend, spread this message. Your peace is worth fighting for. Your purpose is worth protecting. Rise up, stay aligned, and don't look back. God's got you, and I'm rooting for you. Let's keep building together in His name.